Hi, I'm Eric Lubell, and welcome to Beyond the Belt. This is a conversation with Steve Jolly, a black belt out of El Paso, Texas, USA. Steve is a Christian minister and has traveled the world helping to provide clean water in places like Ecuador and Fiji. He is also the founder and director of the Rio Bravo Project, helping to provide martial arts, basic education, and meals for children and teens out of Anapra, Mexico. If you have the financial ability to donate to the Rio Bravo Project, head over to www.riobravoproject.com/give, where you can either do a one-time donation or a regular monthly contribution. Or if you have the ability to donate kids' skis or other BJJ gear, reach out to Steve directly on Instagram. I hope you enjoy our chat. Hey, Steve, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Glad to be here.
What was it like for you to get your black belt?
Well, I was training for a long time, and it was well, the day I got it was a Saturday. I earned my black belt with two other training partners. My family came. My neighbor came, who's a photographer, and so he was there. He wanted to get pictures. He's a longtime judo guy, and so he came and wanted to be a part of that. He's actually the guy that invited me to start training jujitsu, and so he wanted to be there, and it was a good day. We didn't we had a seminar. They used it. They call it black belt camp, and put on a weekend seminar. And at the end of the seminar, like I said, my two training partners and I received our black belts. So that
How
was
did
a
it feel? Like, did you feel like you were ready? Were you like, oh, it's about time? Like, what was your
uh, no, I
mindset
don't
at
know
that
if
moment?
well, maybe some people do feel that way, but absolutely not. I think like probably with every belt, you're not sure if you're ready, and you're not uh maybe not looking forward to the next step isn't the right word, but like you feel like maybe now you're a target and people are expecting more out of you than what you think you're able to provide and prove. But uh it was good. I love my brown belt. I love that phase of training. um I was excited for my black belt, and but I think I was nervous after getting it, and the first day back in the gym, excited to be there with my black belt, but like, okay, how's this going to go? What's the expectations of me and my abilities now? And so, but definitely a good thing for sure.
Do you feel like do you feel like you earned it right away, like after you had it, after that first day back, or did it feel like, oh, I needed a few months, weeks, years to grow into it?
I feel like I'm still growing into it. Honestly, I was thinking about it just this last week about, people always say, or you see the memes or things on Instagram, and like they have all these phases, and then when you get to black belt, that's really when your journey begins. And so I'm still thinking, I'm still learning, still practicing, trying out new things, and so you definitely don't arrive when you get to your black belt. You're still a student and still learning, and as you age and you get injured, or you become healthier or more athletic through your training, I think you're able to attempt or add things to your game. And so I'm still doing that even today, even this week. So
You said your friend who did judo got you to your first jujitsu class. What was his tactic there? Was he just like, hey, I want to show you how to wear pajamas and throw people around, or did
yeah,
you
yeah. So he grew up in, I live along the border, and he grew up in Mexico, and his dad was a judo guy. So he's been doing judo for 50 plus years. And when my kids were little, we took him to the local taekwondo gym and trained. And for him, that was like the worst, to see his neighbor take his kids to taekwondo. And so he always gave us a hard time while we were doing that. And so he just kept going and going. And then the gym where I train at opened, and he was the judo coach there. And so he invited us to the grand opening. Um, for my son, honestly, my son was going into middle school, sixth grade, and we were like, okay, we want you to do more than just play Xbox. And so we took him down there for the first time, and I sat on the side for a couple of weeks, watched him learning, training, and that's when I started. I was like, I can't sit here and just watch this anymore. I wanted to get on the mats, and so that was
how
good.
old were you when that happened?
40s, early 40s, 42, 43, something like that. Maybe 41. I don't remember now, honestly. But so,
I mean, I'm
yeah.
43, and I don't know if how I would feel walking onto the mat for the first time at that age.
The nice thing, at least at this gym, is a brand new gym. So a lot of people were new. There were a lot of white belts starting. There's a picture of me on the mat, like I don't know if it was my first or second class, laying on my back, trying not to throw up. I was not in the best of shape at the time, um, but yeah, I mean, it's great. Again, it's a good learning experience. I think we forget after being on the mats how hard it is for someone to walk in the first day. On Thursday at class, there was a young lady that came and super nervous, mat full, and her first day on the mat, just like, what is going on? I'm like, it's going to be a little uncomfortable this first night. You're going to be closer to a lot of people than you're used to, and but it's good. I think it's good for us to be able to have that experience time and again. That new feeling, being a little bit nervous, uncomfortable.
Do
Um,
you have anything that you like to tell people when it's their first time on the mat, or people that you haven't that they haven't stepped onto the mat yet, to kind of make the transition or the first day easier?
I mean, I do try to remind them that we've all been there for sure. And and like I said, with that young lady that was there, she's not, I don't know how old she was, honestly, but probably young mom age maybe. And trying to let her know that I get it. It's uncomfortable. I'm going to put you in my guard. I'm going to be on side control on top and on mount, and you're going to do the same to me. And so just letting her know, like acknowledging the fact that it's uncomfortable, I think is good. And then for people just like getting interested or they have questions about jujitsu, I think just letting them know, hey, for me, at least at my gym, I haven't trained at a lot of other gyms, is that um, we're all just at our gym in particular is older guys, families. We all have work. We all got to get up the next day. We're not going to try to kill each other a little bit, and then but we got to get up the next day and go to work, and so I try to let them know that we're here. We want you to have success, so we're not gonna like smash you the first night, but let you get comfortable.
That's like day two, day three.
Yeah, yeah, they do. Yeah, all you're in. Yeah.
You started in your early 40s. Like, what do you do differently 10, 15 years later? And just in terms of training, like, how do you treat your body? How do you manage recovery? That's like a thing that I think about a lot as I'm getting older.
Um, I still obviously I think one of the things that's addictive about jiu-jitsu is the rolling and the contact, and so I try not to avoid uh too many rolls, but I'm careful. I'm still careful about who I train with. I was telling one of my students yesterday. I was like, "You're gonna tap all the time. If you don't, you're gonna get hurt." And so honestly, if someone's got an armbar, I don't. I accept it. Lower belt, higher belt. I accept that they got there, and I don't wait for them to crank on my arm before I'll tap. I say, "You got it, tap, and let's start over and just keep training again." Mostly, it's making sure that I'm not being stupid and just protecting myself because I want to keep training. I don't want to get hurt uh, and miss days on the mat. And the other side of it is I take a lot of Advil, honestly. Every day I take Advil. My body is a mess. Not from jiu-jitsu only, just from a life of playing sports. My first surgery was at 16. And so I I take
What
Advil
was
every day.
that?
It was a knee surgery from soccer or football playing in middle school. So I tore a meniscus early.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they can repair those now is just very
I
different
wish.
than it was
Yeah,
back then.
I was a butcher. It was a mess. I was not good. It was, it's hurt since 16, basically, because of that. They basically cut out almost the whole thing. So,
Oh,
yeah.
so that's probably like just bone rubbing on bone at this point,
Yeah, there's
everywhere.
nothing that all the surgeons, when they see my knees now, they're just like, when are we going to replace them? So I've just been putting it off, honestly. Both of them need to be replaced. So,
Um, when you trained, when you were in your earlier belts, were you also kind of, yeah, if you got it, or were you like, was your ego in the way a little bit? as a lower belt?
I don't know if I ever. I mean, I think everybody has a little bit of ego, but um, because we all want to win, we all want to tap somebody, and we don't want to admit that we got caught. So, um, but I I don't feel like I didn't have to prove myself. I'm already 43. What am I? I was trained against along the border here. I trained against border patrol guys. We have an army. Fort Bliss is here, so I'm training with big,
I was
young,
stationed in Fort Bliss
strong.
for a while.
Yeah, and so yeah, so the people that I'm around, and so those are the people I'm training with. So I've got to tap early. My first injury uh, was someone he had trained. Like I said, it was an early gym, but this person, I don't know if he was trained somewhere else. I didn't know I was in danger. He had an Americana, and he cranked on it, ripped my shoulder, and from then on I was like, oh, I need to tap. So I was ready from then on. The only other time that I got surprised like that was someone from another gym came, and before they were teaching us ankle locks, where he came from, they had taught him, and so opened my guard, he grabbed onto my foot and started cranking on it, and I was like, oh crap. So yeah,
A
but
good
no,
ankle lock hurts.
yeah, especially when you don't know. I didn't really even know what was happening yet, so it was still early enough that it surprised me. But no, I've never had a problem with tapping. That's the only reason why I feel like I still can train as hard as I do now. So
I also I don't have an ego about it. Like whenever if somebody gets me in something, I'm actually okay. I don't care if they're a white belt. I don't care if they're a black belt. Like usually I'm just there to have fun anyway. And for me personally, I don't need to tap somebody to have a good time.
yeah,
Somebody could get something super sneaky on me and I can even see it coming a little bit. And then I'd be like, wow, I wonder where this is going. And then I'll let them have it, see if I can work out. And if I can't, I just tap it. I'm like, that was so cool. And then I'm like quite happy about the whole interaction.
yeah. I love telling people. I was like, oh, that was awesome, and I go, I know we're like a weird culture place, like excited that someone just choked me, um, but it's exciting. And honestly, I've from when I got my blue belt, my coach asked me to help with the kids class, so I'm always tapping. Like I'm letting a kid work an armbar, I'm letting a kid work a choke, and so I'm always tapping, and just it's part of what I've always, well, since blue belt at least, always been a part of my game is just letting people work and learn and tap. So
Do you think that teaching kids changed the way that you approach jujitsu itself or just the way you teach or like did working with kids on the sport help you?
for sure, I think they like if like I also worked in local schools, and growing up, like you say, if you can help someone else learn, you're proving that you know the technique first of all, but also it reinforces your ability and your knowledge of the particular technique, and so it helps you out. My coach, I still remember this when I was he said, I notice a difference in your ability after you've been working with the kids program for a couple of months. I think you start to focus, like when you're an adult or anybody, and you're just in class taking the class learning, you're doing the technique and you're just copying. But when you have to turn around and actually teach someone else, that you start to think about details. No, you're not putting your hand in the right spot here, let me help you move your hand here, or put your neck here, or whatever. And I think that really does help you solidify your game and make sure you really do know the technique better. So
I don't
for
really
sure.
teach kids mostly because I'm not like I don't dislike kids, but it's just like not really a thing I taught kids a little bit when I was teaching like MMA many years ago,
Okay.
but not really in jujitsu. But do you teach kids dramatically differently than adults? Because I know oftentimes adults, it's, hey, here's the move, go for it. But with kids, do you focus more on concepts? Do you focus more on outcomes? Like, is there a different style that you use?
For me, with the kids, I try to break it down into fewer steps, not going for maybe the max. I know some people say less, but I try to keep it to 3 or 4 steps in a row. And if it's more than that, then I'll try to combine two together and make it one step so that they can learn it. And so that And we can talk about this later, but I have a lot of kids in my classes. And so,
That's why I
I
asked
had,
actually, because I'm like I usually kids classes are 10, 15 people, and I know you've got a lot of kids. We can talk about it now if you want to.
yeah, so I've got, uh, sometimes I'll have upwards almost 40 kids in a class. And
That's
so
awesome.
when I first started, it was just me teaching, and I remember there was one day I had 36 kids and me, and that's from five to 11 year olds, and so it was a little bit of chaos. But for sure, so I have to make it simple enough so that it gives me time to make it around the room to help uh, teach the kids, make sure if they have any questions that they're getting it correctly, putting their foot or their hand in the right spot on the hip or over the back or around their neck or whatever. So, um, for sure,
How do
definitely
you
less.
handle that many kids in one room? Because even when I have like 45 adults and I'm the only instructor, like 45, 50, that's challenging, but it's doable. I don't know how you do that
Yeah,
many kids.
it's definitely. Uh, we work a lot on discipline, honestly, with my kids. My kids are good when people come and they come to they visit. They see they're like, oh, I'm shocked. If you show up early, it's kind of like a play area. So a lot of my kids uh, show up early. I'll have some kids with me 8 hours a day. That I'll go pick them up. They'll spend all day with me. So the mat room, if when there's not classes going on, is like a play area sometimes. And so when you show up early, it kind of looks like chaos, and these kids are out of control. Once I tell them, hey, it's time to get your gi on, line up, they'll sit. We'll even practice like cross your legs, hands on your knees, close your eyes, work on your breathing, teaching them how to have a little bit more self control. Um, I had almost 60 kids in there in March, I think. Silent, sitting around the room, quiet,
That's
hands on their
really
knees, eyes
impressive.
closed. And so it doesn't happen automatically. You know when there's a new kid that shows up because he's just like off the walls and can't sit still. Everyone's standing, he's on the floor. Everyone's sitting, he's standing up. Um, it takes a few weeks, just like with anybody, to learn the culture and learn expectations. And um, but it's definitely awesome to see that part of martial arts is awesome for kids, just to learn discipline, self control, respect.
I remember when I
I
was young doing Taekwondo, like you had brought your kids.
yeah,
They had us at the beginning of every class on your knees, cross your arm, cross your hands on your thighs, place your hands on your thighs rather, like everybody deep breath. And I remember that like doing that at the beginning of every class. And what's interesting, it's funny. I thought about this a few months ago. Right before I teach every class, I actually do that. I get down,
mm,
I get on my knees, I sit on my heels, I put my hands on my thighs, and I take a deep breath. And I didn't realize what somebody was making fun of me for it. Like one of the
mm,
other students, they were like, "Coach, you always do that right before class." And then I was like, "I don't." Oh, I do know why I do that. And then I explained to them why, that it was like a thing from the Taekwondo when I was, I don't know, 7, 8, 5, 6 years old, and it stuck with me.
yeah. There's still habits I have. Same thing with Taekwondo. My kids started, I joined with them, and so I was doing the adult Taekwondo class. But at our particular gym there, you bowed when you entered the building, you bowed when you entered the mat, and you bowed when you got off the mat. When you shook hands, Mike, I don't know what we called him, Sensei probably in Taekwondo. When he shook hands, he would always shake hands. He'd have one behind his back, and he'd bow as he shook your hand. And that is something, and you say, sir, and those types of things still stick with me today. I shake hands, and unconsciously I'm bowing like there's a little grandma that brings her granddaughter to class. And when I shake her hand, I still like bow when I shake her hand and say good morning, just out of habit from, I was saying I trained for 3 years, I think there, 3 years of bowing my head and saying, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It's just, and honestly, that's part of, uh, what drew me to this when I saw this in my kids. Like, hey, this is awesome. They're learning they're learning respect for their elders, respect for each other, and like I said, we can talk about it. But that's where my dream of actually providing martial arts to kids started, was with the Taekwondo. I got injured, like I said, my knees. I couldn't do the kicks and the jumps anymore after I got hurt. Um, But that's what I was thinking back then was, hey man, this stuff is good. And if everyone knows schools are expensive, like to train, monthly fees can be costly for families. And there's lots of kids that can't afford to participate in martial arts because of the costs. And I was like, I go, there's lots of kids that need this that just can't afford it. They need to learn the discipline, the respect. And back then it was the kicks and the punches and all that's great. It's just the avenue for teaching all of the other characteristics that we want to see in the kids.
Is
Then
that why you
later when I
started?
got, what's that?
Is that why you started Rio Bravo?
So Rio Bravo, I mean, the dream started back when I did Taekwondo. I got injured. I had to stop. My kids kept doing Taekwondo and life went on. And then when I started at Jiujitsu, that dream or that idea came back. Hey, this is, I forgot like how powerful a martial art can be for people in general, but kids for sure. And so that's what reignited the idea of, and what's eventually became Rio Bravo. So
We'll come back to that in like 1 second. But when you say powerful, what do you think about when you think martial arts is powerful? Like, what's your definition of that?
I'm not talking about like strength or an amazing
No,
kick or punch.
I
I
totally,
think
that's why I
it,
asked.
yeah. I think, I think probably one of the most powerful things about a martial art is learning self control, knowing yourself, knowing when you feel like you're in a situation, maybe a tense situation, and you feel like this energy or anger or frustration building up, and being able to control it, recognize it and control it. I think that's powerful, and especially for kids, especially for the things that we see going on today, and kids not having the ability to control their emotions and what that ends up leading to. One of my friends says, "Little kids, little problems; big kids, big problems." When kids don't grow up and they stay kids forever, the little problems that were little before become huge and life altering problems. If and so a martial art, whether it's taekwondo or jiu-jitsu, or anything, I think it's powerful because it teaches kids how to have that self-control awareness. They can identify when things aren't right and then learn to control it and have a better outcome. So I think that's what's powerful about it.
I think that's a really beautiful explanation. I had a sensei when I was younger who, I get into him another time, but he used to have this speech he would give at the end of class, and I will shortcut it greatly, but it was basically, everybody should know how to do 5 things in life, which is, read, write, do math, defend themselves, swim and defend themselves. And I think
Okay.
that is like a really good basic set of things. And I used to listen to that and think, that's good, but it feels like it's missing something. And it took me
Mhm.
years to figure out what. And I think the last thing is sort of the thing you just said. And like when I thought about it, I came up with meditate or focus. Like I never really had the right singular term for it, but self control or self discipline is just as good as like focus or meditate. And I think
Okay.
that giving people that thing, whether they get it as a kid or as an adult, is like a wonderful gift to try to give somebody, is the ability
Hmm.
to have that self control or power, as you called it.
Absolutely, for sure, and you can see it. Like I said, the when I said the new kids will show up, they have no self control, and they're off the walls. And then you can look down the as the the kids in their ranks, as you look down the line. We line up. I know schools do it differently. We line up, and then before we bow in, as you move down the line. And I tell my kids, hey, I go, you guys, you've been here training with me 2 or 3 or 4 years. You guys need to be the example. And so I can tell my little kids, look down there, see how they're sitting, see how they're not screwing around or goofing off. So you can definitely tell someone that's been there training for a number of years, or someone that's just there a couple of days or a couple of weeks. And so I think it is powerful. And I tell my kids all the time, I go, your teachers, your schools should know that you're a part of Rio Bravo based on your behavior, based on how you're acting in the classroom. Um, at least they should notice a difference. Maybe they don't know that you're part of our program, but they should notice a difference in your behavior versus the rest of the kids in the classroom.
That's a great motivator. And I remember the same thing when I was a kid. They were like, your teachers in school should know you do martial arts by how well you behave and how well you control yourself. And I remember hearing that repetitively when I was younger. So tell me about Rio Bravo. Like, what is it? Why did you start it? This kind of a thing.
Okay, so like I said, it started back. The idea of providing martial arts started back when we were doing taekwondo, and I saw the effects of it with my kids, and so at that time I actually talked to my sensei and asked him about it, and I was asking about downtown El Paso. Is there anything down there for them? And then I got hurt, and so I had to stop jumping around and kicking bags, and let my kids continue. I went on work, everything, started jujitsu, and the idea came back up. And so I talked to my professor about it. I think I was probably a blue belt at that time. And he was like, you know what? I think that's awesome. He goes, but you need to at least wait until you're a purple belt. People are not going to respect you as a professor, or other people, like the community where I'm working, they wouldn't know the difference. But other people who train jujitsu are going to go, what's a blue belt doing being the lead professor? And so I said, okay, that's good advice. And so I just kept training, and that the idea and the dream was still in my head. But it took until I got to brown belt. It was the pandemic. I had another knee injury, had a surgery that got infected, and had a second surgery to fix the infection, and was like, I thought I was done with jiu-jitsu, and couldn't bear weight for a couple of months, couldn't bathe myself, couldn't change my clothes. It was a mess. It was a really bad situation. And so I was kind of depressed, honestly. I thought, I can't do jiu-jitsu anymore. I might lose this. And then I was like, and once I realized after physical therapy, or in the middle of physical therapy, once I realized that I was going to be able to continue training at some point, I was like, I've got to do this. And so I quit my job. Well, I talked to my wife first.
Important step.
Yeah. Can't do that without talking to your wife. Or shouldn't anyways. The pandemic, my knee injury, I was 50 something, 51, I think, at that time, or no, 49 at that time. How old was I? So it was around there, yeah. And I said, I need to do this. And so talked to my wife, talked to my boss, started the steps of starting nonprofit Rio Bravo, and stepped away from my job. And so Rio Bravo is a nonprofit. I live along the border, El Paso borders, Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. And I wanted to provide, like we talked about, the cost is prohibitive to a lot of people to participate in martial arts. And so I wanted to provide a place for jiu-jitsu for kids. And so I talked to some of my friends across the border and talked to them about, hey, what do you think about me starting a jiu-jitsu program in Mexico? And they were like, okay, let's do it. And so I made a list of things, and I was like, okay, I need to do this, 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 and this. And whenever I hit a barrier and I can't go any further, then I guess we're not going to do it. But every door continued to open, every permit, nonprofit status, everything fell into place. And it was March of 21. I started walking the neighborhood. I partner with 2 different churches down there. And so I started walking the neighborhood around the first church where we started the program, and just knocked on doors and introduced myself, said, hey, I'm going to start a jiu-jitsu program, and I want to invite your kids. And they're like, oh, Kung Fu? I'm like, no, not Kung Fu, jiu-jitsu. And so the second time I went to walk, I brought a tablet with me with some videos so that I could explain and show them what jiu-jitsu was.
Learned.
Yeah. and that's how we started. And
so how big was the program when you started it? Like, what was your first
my
class
first
size?
day, we had 29 kids.
That is an impressive starting point.
Yeah. So so then we had to I started all in gis, and there's a reason why I chose gi originally. Um, but yeah, I just started knocking on doors, inviting family members, and
So what's the reason? Don't like leave me hanging.
so like in a lot of places, like if you go to schools, a lot of times they'll have uniforms, and sometimes it's because of the mixed population, and so some people can't afford the good clothes or the nice clothes or the nice shoes or whatever. And so I didn't want that to be an issue. And so I wanted everybody who came, everyone got a gi and they stepped on the mat. Everyone looked the same. Everyone got a belt. Everyone had a gi. So when they stepped on the mat, they stepped on as equals.
That's
And so that was
really smart.
that was important to me. Um, and we have kids from all ranges. Uh, and so I didn't want to have any of those issues happen there.
So how did you feel walking around Juarez, going from place to, house to house? Because I've been to Juarez, admittedly,
Yeah.
quite a few years ago, and it was not the most comfortable feeling walking around there.
So I've spent since graduating from college, I've been along the border, and a lot of that time I've been across the border. And so as far as being there, wasn't terrible. Juarez had a few bad years as the most dangerous city in the world. A lot of cartel activity.
Unfortunately for me, when I was there, was one of those years where it was ranked up there.
Yeah, and so because I've been along the border all this time, and even in El Paso, I'm just comfortable being the minority. And so in an opera where we actually are, so Juarez is a huge city, close to 2 million people. An opera where we have our program is kind of like a suburb, maybe 25,000 people there. And it's a little bit separated from Juarez. So honestly, I was comfortable with it, with like any new adventure, a little nervous knocking on that first door, wondering at that point I still didn't even know if it was going to be successful. It was just an idea, a dream I had, and I was like, okay, God, here we are. I'm going to start. Let's see what happens. And so I just knocked on doors. The first door I knocked on, the mom, uh, her name's Fanny. She goes, "Oh, she had 3 kids. That's great." Oh, she's the one that said kung fu, and I was like, "Not kung fu, jiu-jitsu." But she taught Zumba or liked Zumba, and she was like, "I could go tell my mom friends about it." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. Let's not." I kind of like being under the radar a little bit. I didn't want everyone to know what we were doing, and so I said, "But if your 3 kids come, that's awesome." And so then I just went door to door to door, and the first time I just walked around that first block, and that's all the kids that I invited. And so those kids, some of the kids from the church and families from the church participated, and like I said, there was 29 that first day, and
Where
it was
did
awesome.
you get your initial round of funding for this? Like, where did the donations come from, or where did the money come from?
So I just once I got through the nonprofits, like getting approved as a nonprofit and all that, then I sent out letters to family and friends. And so honestly, that's still all our funding. I don't have any grants. I don't have any government help. It's all just personal friends, contacts, some of my training partners, um, and that's where it still all comes from. We have monthly donors that give every month, and my one of my board members, not my neighbor who's a judo guy, another guy he's a former army, was a judo black belt. He's my secretary on my board. He bought, because he did a long time judo guy. He loves martial arts. He bought our mats. Um, so uh, that's how it's been with my friends and contacts. Other church, I think we have 3 churches that support us. But mostly individuals. That's where most of our funding comes from. So
That's really great. It's nice to know that things like that still happen, because most of the time you
yeah,
hear the news and everything's horrible and this battle and
yeah,
whatever, but to know that you're fully supported and functional with a good program from friends and family is like quite heartening to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. Honestly, it's
Um,
awesome. It's awesome to have that much support. The first my professor's sister trains, and when we started, she put a post. She's in a women's Facebook group or something, a jiu-jitsu women group. She mentioned it. Some a gym from Georgia, I think, sent us 20 geese. Uh, like they told their kids
amazing.
program, hey, this group starting in Mexico, free jiu-jitsu for the kids. And it's just like shoes. Kids outgrow their geese super fast. And so they have all these geese sitting around. And I got 2 huge boxes of geese, and that was our first. That's where all our geese came from, that these kids were wearing. And I've not bought one gi in 4 years for my kids. Every
That's
every
fantastic.
child, every kid has one gi at least, and some of my more consistent kids have 2 or 3 geese that let them take care of. And so
One of the
we went
things
to.
I read about Rio Bravo on the website is that you focus on literacy. Um, I mean, no judgment, obviously that's a wonderful thing, but where does that come in as a function of martial arts?
So okay, so that's completely separate. So I think just speaking broadly, I think Rio Bravo will be more than just jiu-jitsu someday. When we started, like I said, we were in the middle of the pandemic. And so if you can think about how schools were for kids back then, in an opera, it was terrible. Like kids were on cell phones trying to watch a video or getting their homework texted to them. And so, like I said, I worked in the schools previously, and one of my main role is working literacy and math for Spanish speaking kids. And so that's when I was little, I couldn't read. I was in tutoring in 4th grade. I struggled a lot with reading. So literacy has been something that's been important to me for a long time. And so then I worked for 8 years in a local elementary school where a lot of kids came over there. Main language was Spanish. They're coming into El Paso. They're having to learn English, but we're still teaching them in Spanish. And so I took time doing that. So when I went across the border and started working, we started with the jiu-jitsu. And so when we started, we had like a little attendance cards, and they're in a little file folder with ABCD all the way through. And I could watch the kids. I'm like, oh, find your card, take out your card and set it in the other box. And when they couldn't find their name because they didn't know their letters, I was like, we need to work on literacy with some of these kids. And so one of my boys was a 2nd grader. Um, he knew 4 vowels in 2nd grade. And we're in the middle of the pandemic, or towards the end of the pandemic. And I was like, we need to fix this. And so on off days of jujitsu training, I would go get him and we'd work on literacy. So I just created a little program for literacy, like first learning your letters, then you learning your sight words, and then slowly get to reading. And so we took him. It wasn't an intelligence; it was just a lack of quality teaching. And so within a few months, we had all of his letters. We had about 100 sight words done, and then started reading. And now he's great. Now, he's still part of our program. No issues. Reads awesome, and it's great. And so that happened with a number of kids. Right now, we don't do any literacy. Um, I think it's still there are still some kids that need it. I don't have any more bandwidth. I'm across the border teaching jiu-jitsu 5 days a week. Um, Someday, uh, I hope it's a need. Like you said, what your sensei said, you need to know how to read. Uh, there's still kids that need that, and
Is that what
so
success looks like for you in the Rio Bravo project? Like 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, you want to have sections of it that are martial arts, but also sections that are literacy, sections that are, basic mathematics or operational stuff, like day-to-day stuff.
I think, yeah, I think it will. I mean, I love the jujitsu. I love the martial art part of it, and yeah, I get to train 5 days a week. I get to teach jujitsu, something I love, and to see how it changes kids' lives that way. And honestly, I like I said, I pick up kids in the morning, and they'll be there all day with me. So I am fully invested in their lives 100%. Um, so I just don't have time to do any literacy. If I had another 24 hours a day, I would definitely do it. And so, but for sure, I would love for it to be a comprehensive program that, that covered all of the important areas of kids' lives. We do meals. I mean, part of our program is, and this is the amazing thing about the funding, like you asked about, we not only do we do all the jiu-jitsu and pay bills, cleaning, everything that goes into keeping a gym. Um, we provide meals after every single class for all of the kids, and all of that is funded from donors outside. And so, and I have 6 moms in the community that work for us. 3 that are cooks, and then 2 that wash gis, and then 1 that helps oversee all of that. So we provide, like I said, so some of our kids, they don't have the need for the food. Some of them, they'll come to class and go, "Profe, I'm hungry." And so I'll give them a snack, get them through class, and then they can go eat lunch after class. And so, for sure, definitely would love it to be comprehensive, hit all of that key areas so that the kids grow up, have opportunities opened up for them.
Um, just because I'm curious, because I guess the way I worded the question was a little bit like specific. Do you also look at this as success as like having multiple locations, or do you want it to just stick to one location with more capabilities of like maybe literacy or math or
Um,
something?
so we have 2 gyms. I work with 2 churches down there, so I do classes on different days at the different locations. And I could start up like I've told people before, I could open 10 gyms tomorrow and have them full if I had the ability to cover the classes. So yes, for sure, I want to have other areas where we're doing jujitsu. And then if like I was sharing with my son's a art major. I was like, you and your classmates need to come down and do an art camp for me for these kids. Because some kids, just like in the States or just like anywhere, some people jujitsu, they get in there one time, they sweat, they're like, this is not for me. But they might be an artist. And so we can provide another avenue to give kids confidence. Hey, I can really excel at art or whatever the area might be. Um, so I would love to have more uh, areas that provide. The world is trying to get the kids, and so if we can provide a powerful again, or a safe, powerful place for them to have an outlet that's positive for them, I'm all for it for sure. Um,
That sounds fantastic. That's why I was curious, because the way you were talking about it was hard for me to distill. Is this one location? Is that your dream? Do you just want one bigger location, or do you really want to have this broken out and have many of them and have more, not just volunteers, but people that you can support in the community, and really give them
yeah,
jobs and
I've had.
ideas.
So and it's interesting. When I started, I thought, man, there's going to be more people that want to be a part of this and that come down. I'm a person of faith, so I thought, oh, there's got to be other Christians out there that train jujitsu that just they don't feel like they can do anything. All they like to do is jujitsu. I'm like, hey, here's a place for you to serve, um, and that just hasn't panned out that way. And so I thought I would have other people come on that would open the door for other areas to provide gyms and training for kids. Because that didn't happen, I changed my focus. Like that might still happen. That's fine, but I've changed my focus, and so some of my older teens are training up as junior coaches. And so I have a young woman who's a blue belt, and he's an 18-year-old who's a blue belt. They help me every class with the little kids, and so they come 2 hours early. We train with the little kids. They stay after, and then they do get their training in. And so they're both going into university in the next couple of weeks, and have already talked to them about, hey, I want you to finish school, but I want you to keep training. And when you're done, if you're open to it, we'll find funding to provide you this career path, and we can open another gym and you can either stay here and be a coach with the kids, or we can go find another partner and location and go open another gym for you to lead there. And so that's kind of where it's a little bit slower than I thought it would be, but that's fine. I mean, I'm not ready, honestly, to explode. Uh, um, our systems are getting better, but we're still working on things. And these kids are these, and I want the right people. That's the thing. You know, there was one guy that wanted to volunteer. I love jujitsu. I want to come down, and so we went out to lunch. I'm like, tell me about you. He goes, well, I hate kids. I'm like, you're probably not the guy to come. I love that you love jujitsu, but you kind of have to like kids if you're gonna spend your day with them. And so,
Were you glad that your coach told you to, like, I'm only asking because you just were telling me you have blue belts teaching for you. Are you glad that you waited like far beyond blue belt to, even though it was circumstantial? And would you
yeah,
give the same advice to blue belts to wait?
I think so. I think it's wise. I think one of the things that like we've had very like we've had a bloody nose or some minor, like, you know, they didn't tap and they hurt their elbow getting an arm bar, but in 4.5 years we've had basically zero injuries. And so I think time on the mat helps me see things that a blue belt might not see before it happens. And so as far as keeping my kids safe, I can say, hey, watch, you know, you're gonna hurt your neck if you don't, like, as they start to stack and pass the kid and they're cranking on their neck. And so um I think for while I don't think that's why he told me that, he was thinking more of outside people looking in and saying, who are you to be teaching? For me, that's been probably the most important result of that, is being able to make sure my kids are safe when they're training. And so my blue belts, they love our kids, but I don't know that they're looking for those types of things yet.
I
They
will
get
say
more
time on the
excited
mat
when.
is very important. Like I've caught a lot of near injuries just like looking around the room at a full room and being like, "Oh, that's not good," and then running over and people just like, "Why'd you stop us?" It's like, "Well, here's this thing." They're like, "Oh yeah, we didn't know about that." I'm like, "I know you didn't
Yeah,
know about that. That's why we're here as coaches sometimes."
yeah, tapping across the room for that person before they get hurt. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The most common one I feel like I see is somebody just trying to bowl someone over when they're on their knees. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, that's
Oh
going to
my
blow
god.
your knees out. Like, nobody do
Yeah.
that. And then I have to, bring everyone back in and show them how to fold their foot under and roll over their feet just to be safe. And it's like the number of times I've taught that, or how to not blow someone's knee out during a lockdown just because I see it
Oh
all
yeah.
over. Like I'm getting stressed out just thinking about it right now.
I'm starting to sweat a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you
Oh,
start jiu-jitsu? Sorry.
I started I started a couple of different times. I officially started jujitsu probably about 15 years ago.
Okay.
But I was an all-American wrestler back in university, and I also had a bunch of other teammates that did jujitsu, and so they would like come show me a move like during wrestling, and so I was getting like side lessons a little bit, but it was very very basic because it was like the late '90s, early 2000s. Then I like kind of started again when I was a personal trainer, but with one of my friends but it was like a couple of months, and then I stopped. I really only started like for real about 15 years ago, not even, maybe 14 years ago now.
Okay.
I
Awesome.
just I think I wasn't ready for enjoying the slow, systematic nature of jujitsu back then. I was still like wrestling,
Er,
like
Yeah. Yeah.
just um,
Yeah.
just a different feel, I think.
Well, yeah, I love it, and I love being able to help when new people come in. You know, I know some people don't like. They're like, I'm here to roll. I'm here to train. I don't want to help. I love helping new people get on the mat and feel comfortable and learn their first Americana or how to pass the guard, or just their eyes open up to like what they can do that they never thought that they could do. It's
That's
so
literally
cool.
my favorite thing about teaching. Like I've gotten to the point with my jujitsu where like I know that I'm not going to be the best grappler. I'm not bad, but it's, like there are other brown belts and purple belts, frankly, that are better than I am. And I'm okay with that. But I really love teaching and imparting knowledge and watching people. I teach in the mornings. Like I teach the 8 a.m. crew most of the time. That these are, parents, people who do go to work right afterwards, and so I get to see people who this is the time in their day that they're focused on themselves before they go focus on the rest of the world. And so for them to
Mhm.
like walk in and have a little bit more self-confidence when they leave, like to be excited that they did something with their bodies that they didn't know their bodies could do, to be like, oh my God, that thing you showed me, coach, it worked. And I was able to submit this person. And then they walk out with their head high and have a good day. Like that's for me why I teach now. And it wouldn't have been like that 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Awesome. That's so cool.
I want to talk about, so like off camera, we talked about, you have such a crazy resume, like of things that you've done in your life. And I want to talk
Okay.
about a whole bunch of them, but how did you get into doing clean water work in Fiji? Like
Okay. So
what
yeah,
brought you out there? Yeah.
there's a little bit of a journey to get there. So
Okay.
I graduated. So there's a one particular relationship that kind of got me there. So when I was in college, I worked across the border in Tijuana. Um, and that was with a ministry that built houses for families that were in bad situations, lived in pallet and cardboard houses. And so I, as a college student for 2 summers, I went down and spent my summers, led groups to build homes. On one of those trips, I met a guy named Daryl, who was a youth pastor in Phoenix, Arizona, and we just built a friendship out of that. Saw him on and off over the years, and then a number of years later, he was, like I said, he was a youth pastor in Phoenix, but then he ended up working with the organization building homes, and he led that organization. So we ended up being coworkers for a couple of years, and then I left that organization and did a couple of other things. And I started working with a church, and one of the things that I was responsible for was community involvement. And one of the target areas that we wanted to be involved with was clean water. And so we were gonna go dig a well somewhere. I can't remember what it was now, but something happened in that particular country where we were going to go. They shut down travel to that country, and so our trip got canceled. Well, Daryl, in the meantime, over those years, had started a nonprofit called Give Clean Water and was working in Fiji. And so our trip got canceled. I'm like, hey, Daryl, is there any chance we can partner with you? And so a small team of 5 of us jumped on a plane, went to Fiji, and spent a week down there installing clean water filters for families all over Fiji. That's honestly how it started. Um,
And you did that for 5 years?
did so started that. That was 1 week trip. Then I had some other contacts in South America, and I said, "Hey," called one of them. I go, "What's the water situation?" He was in Ecuador. "What's the water situation in Ecuador?" He's like, "It's terrible." I said, "Can we come down and test some water?" So I grabbed another friend. We flew to Ecuador. We spent a week down there, took 10 of these filters down, and went around all these different communities and tested water and took the results home. Found out that, all the water was bad. He was right. While we were there, we demonstrated. We had 10 of the filters. We demonstrated in each location. Said, "Hey, what do you guys think? Is this something that you would use if we came back?" And he said, "Yeah." So for the next 6 years, we would take a trip down and spend a week in the community, wherever in the different, again, it was partnering with churches, and we would walk the streets and just knock on every single door in the community and provide a filter for the family, install it, teach them how to use it, teach them how to clean it, and then go on to the next house. Um, so that was just 1 week a year. Um, and then it was like 90, no, not 95, I'm aging myself, 2014. I called Daryl back. I was kind of looking for something new to do, and I said, "Hey, anything happens to come up, I would love to be able to work with you guys." And they had happened to just get a grant for a huge quantity of filters, and they said, "We really need someone to help manage the distribution of these filters." And so that's when I started working with Give Clean Water and working in Fiji. And so I spent 5 years working with Give Clean Water in Fiji, uh, installing thousands of filters all over the island of Fiji. doing clean water, and so
How does like clean water? This is a stupid question, but I'm going to ask anyway. How does clean water or water scarcity be a problem on an island like Fiji?
so I mean, salt water is the big issue around the island. Obviously, there are things that exist now to make that water potable. But in Fiji, there's just lots of dirty water. The rivers, bacteria. Bacteria is the biggest issue for most of the water down there, and so even sometimes the wells are contaminated. They can drill and get to clean water, but then it gets, there's cattle or whatever, and then the water source ends up being contaminated. So the filters that we use are called Sawyer filters, and you can get them online. The Army uses them, all sorts. Camping, everybody uses them now. They get down to zero point 0.1 microns of, which I think, don't quote me, I'm not a doctor or scientist, but I think E. coli is the smallest bacteria that affects us as humans, and these filter out even beyond that. And so you can walk up, install one of these filters, and a family can be drinking purified water within 5 minutes.
Can you
And
just give like a general walkthrough of how the filter roughly works? I get that you're not a scientist, but just like you
yeah,
keep saying
yeah.
installing, so I'm wondering what goes into
Okay.
installing.
So the filter is the size of, let me see. So I've got a coffee cup. Okay.
Yeah.
So the actual filter is a little bit smaller than this. It's round. And the way we did it there in Fiji is you'll have two buckets. You'll have a dirty water bucket, a tube coming out of that bucket connecting to the filter, and then a clean water bucket on the other side. So you can go any water source down there, river, contaminated well. You can take a mud puddle, put it in the dirty water bucket, and feed it through the filter. Inside the filter, from what I understand, the technology comes from dialysis. And it's little, like micro or small, but like hair, like follicles that are porous. So the water goes in, the pores are 0.1 microns in size, and so only clean water it keeps all of the bacteria inside the filter, and clean water comes out on the other side. So you can go to the dirtiest brown. So, along here, Rio Grande is the river between us and Mexico. In Spanish, it's Rio Bravo del Norte. And so my daughter did an experiment with her school. We went down and took the water out of the Rio Grande, which is nasty, brown, horrible water. And so when we're doing demonstrations, we'll throw dirt in the water to make it even worse. It'll go through the filter and it'll come out crystal clear, and you can drink it right there and not worry about any kind of infection or bacteria
But it
or
does have to
anything.
be fresh water. It doesn't like desalinate or anything.
It does not desalinate. So yeah, that's another whole nother level of technology. But most of the world has access to some sort of water, just not clean water. And so we did when we did the installations, we did at the time of installation, we had a group of questions that we would ask about health, age, missed school, missed work, diarrhea, cough, all sorts of questions. 2 weeks later, we would revisit, make sure that they're cleaning it correctly. If they clean it, it will last years and years. I don't know what they guarantee on it now, but a number of years. Do the same questions, and then again 3 weeks later do another set of questions, and alleviate almost by week installation to week 2, health issues gone, immediate change, save. So now they're not having to pay for water, they're not missing school, they're not missing work, so everything is affected by clean water. So it's amazing.
That's got to feel really good for you having done that for years.
Yeah. So and we have maps, like we saw every house, where every single filter had been installed. We have all the data on it. I mean, this particular filter, they're using it for nonprofits are using it around the world now. Changing, I think Liberia. What's it, Liberia? There's a few countries now that have completely every family has a clean water filter, And so alleviating, imagine the impact of one family, or now you have a whole community that has no more illness because of waterborne disease. Amazing. Changed lives. Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
And all that was because you were building house for you anyway. That was because you were building houses with a guy.
Yeah, yeah, that's all. That's how that started. And so, yeah, and they're still working. There's lots of little island countries down there in Fiji, and so they're still out there working. But that's kind of how my life, as a college student, I was a mess as a college student. Um,
What does that mean?
Went down. What's that?
What is I was a mess as a college
I mean,
student.
I party scene, living my life for me, kind of a thing. And so I got on a plane, went to Mexico, and changed the direction of my life, and have just been working and serving in different things, and every piece of this has led to what I'm doing now. And so
What
in
prompted
Mexico,
the change to? Because usually when people are partying, there's like a moment where they're like, this is not something I can continue. Did you have that moment?
I remember I've told my personal kids, and I've told my teen kids across the border this, kind of hoping to encourage them not to, as they're entering that phase of life. Like, I was a pretty good kid, pretty decent. I was a teenager. We screwed around a lot and everything, but pretty decent kid until I went off to college and just messed around and partied a lot. And I remember one day there's a party going on behind me inside the house, and I was sitting on the curb out front just going, this is not working. And so, I mean, I know this isn't about faith and everything, but at that point I was like, okay, God, I'm choosing. There's a poem, Two Roads, what's it called? Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverge in yellow wood. And so, um, and then there's a verse in the Bible, Matthew 6:33. It says, "Seek first the kingdom of God." And so I was sitting on the curb, probably not sober, and just like, this is not working for me. And so I said, okay, I'm giving it all to you. I don't know what this means at this point, but I'm done with that life, and I'm choosing this life. And then that's when I decided to go to Mexico. That's when I just changed everything in my life.
So
I wouldn't be here today.
you weren't religious at this point, and then just decided you were going to like give your life to God, or you were religious and you had kind of strayed, and you're
For
like,
sure
what?
straight.
I need. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, but you haven't strayed if you weren't there to begin with,
Oh,
sort of
okay.
a thing.
Yeah. So no, I grew up. My mom took myself and my brothers to church. From I was adopted at 6 days old, and from at 8 days I was in church and grew up. So I knew how I should be living. Um,
Yeah.
and did pretty good for most of my life. Got to college, spread my wings, and tried a different life for a while, and wasn't having much success in that. I was like I said, I was a mess. Um, and got to the point where I was like, hey, like I said, this is not working, and uh,
So we'll
made a
take me
change.
through a little bit more of that because I'm curious. Like, you got on the plane, headed to Mexico, and you were to do what at that point?
At that point, I just wanted to go and help people. I had a beer on the way down on the plane. Um, got there. There's one picture of when I got to Mexico. So there was a summer internship program, and there was 5 people. When I arrived, there was 5 of us as summer college age interns. And the first couple of weeks is all training, like how to first as a group, and then how to lead teams to build homes. So the first week was getting to know each other, how to do conflict resolution and work together as a team. Second week was how to build a house. At the end of the second week, they took a picture of us in front of the house that we built together. There was those 4, and then there was me. Sorry, I'm looking at my fingers. There was those 4, and then there was me looking. I didn't see this picture until the end of the summer, but even at that point, I didn't really want to be a part of that. I wanted to be a part of helping people. And
Yeah.
so, but over the course of that summer, it opened my eyes a little bit to, not a little bit, a lot, to that there's more to faith in Jesus and a life of following him than just sitting in a pew on Sunday mornings. Um, and I don't know that I fully understood that before spending a summer dedicating all of my energy to giving to other people. And so that's the where the impact, and that's where my life was up. So on this side, I was partying, drinking, everything that went on with that. And then the dramatic shift into focusing on others and serving others. And that's where my life has been since, for 30 plus years, always looking for a way to serve other people. And that's where Rio Bravo came from. Honestly, like I said, I quit my job. I raise funds. I spend my whole life is dedicated to serving the kids across the border.
I think that's wonderful. I mean, I'm not personally religious, although I have been to church and temple many, many, many times over the years. I sent to military school, and I was in church twice a week as a Jew. And
Okay.
then I went, and I was bar mitzvahed as a kid. Religion never resonated with me, but service, I've always taken a slightly different approach to it. But I love the idea of service, and I do that through coaching. I do that through teaching.
Mhm.
And it's interesting to hear that you kind of went one way and were like, nope, nope, this isn't for me. And then you went back and were like, this is what I need to be doing with myself. And like
Yeah.
it felt right. What's
Yeah.
interesting to me though is that it felt you're saying something that is quite difficult to do on the whole is what part of what felt right. Like just magically going and learning to build houses and then being like, yeah, this is the kind of that's like going 2-3 steps up about of difficulty. Um, how did you feel doing something so difficult to figure out that this is something you like to do?
As far as building houses, I guess growing up in a different era, my dad, uh, we were outside. We were always messing around or building, or building forts or working. Like my dad, if his car broke down, I still remember this. We had a little Toyota Corolla station wagon. Instead of taking it to the mechanic, he crawled underneath there and figured out how to change his clutch. And so we were a part of that. And so he would say, like, I wasn't under there changing the clutch, but I would be handing him the tools. I was involved. He was working on his motorcycle. We'd be involved. He had a big shop. He had a wood lathe. So when I was in middle school, I don't know if this exists anymore. We had wood shop and metal
When
shop,
I was in
and
middle school, that's where I learned woodworking, was a little bit at home and then a whole bunch at school.
yeah, yeah. And so I think part of it was, uh, while he didn't teach me how to build a house, he taught me not to be afraid to get my hands dirty and learn something new. And so I couldn't have done it on my own. There was obviously an organization there that taught us how to go through all of the steps. Once I learned that, I mean, there's a building manual. We followed it step by step. The houses weren't like U.S. level houses, but so they were basic enough for teams to come down and spend a week working. And so we would go through the manual. But again, at that point, my role changed more from building the house to leading the team. And so part of it is just like now, I'm like coaching. Like when I coach, I don't get to train as much, but I'm there teaching the kids how to do the the technique. And then when I was there in Mexico building houses, I was teaching a kid how to saw. Like he never touched a saw before, or how to hammer, which side of the hammer to hit the nail with. So um, it was all about coaching back then too.
It sounds like you found your calling a little bit there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Is that when you went into the ministry, or was that like you went from just to follow the path a little bit? You went from that to
Yeah.
ministry to clean water.
So when I went to college initially, I wanted to do biology, outdoors. So I grew up fishing, camping with my dad and my family, with my high school friends. And so when I got to college, like, this is what I want to do, wildlife biology. But I was terrible at science. I couldn't pass the classes. I tried twice. I was like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. I like to be out there, but I don't know how these things are working. Um, So I went to Mexico, loved my time in Mexico, came back to college, switched my major, switched it to elementary education, loved working with kids in Mexico. Came back, switched it to elementary education with a minor in Hispanic studies. And so uh, the idea at that point was I was going to come back and teach. Um, but after my second summer, I talked to my supervisor down there, and I was like, you know what, I love this. I've really enjoyed my summers, and I'd like to come back and be a part of this full time after I graduate. And he was like, so we had like a little quick 5 minute interview. Uh, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? La la la. It was like I guess I'm serious. It was less than 5 minutes. He's like, okay, let us know when you can come down. And so I went back to school, met with my guidance counselor, said, how fast can I graduate? And she said, well, what'd you do this summer? I said, I spent a summer in Mexico. She goes, write me a paper. So I went home, wrote a paper about my experience. She goes, here's 3 credits. Came up with some class, give me 3 credits for that class. I don't know. I finished 3 months early, graduated, and basically packed my car and drove to San Diego and started working across the border. So, and that's kind of where my fundraising started. And so some of my support has been from relationships that I've had from 30 years ago, because in the same way that I have to raise support now for Rio Bravo, I had to raise my salary back then to work across the border. They're a nonprofit, they're a ministry. All of their funding came from individuals. They didn't have money to pay me to live, so I had to raise all my money. And so that's where ministry, like I said, I had no desire to stand in church and preach, stand in front of people and do any of that. But the idea of blessing and serving your neighbor, that resonated with me. And so I would have never chosen ministry if I knew that I had to go and preach. But to be able to do it in this way, I was like, yeah, I'm in on this. And so that's
What's
where it
the
started.
distinction between like ministry and, I guess for lack of a better way of phrasing it, like a chaplain, right? Like, is it somewhat similar in that you're not really standing up there preaching, but you're out there supporting, or is that not the right approximation?
Like a chaplain in the military, you mean?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of as you were sort of saying, describing.
So I think the role, it probably depends on where you are. Like in a hospital, there's chaplains, and they're doing a lot of grief counseling, so they're there at people's worst times, so they're there more for counsel. I think in the military there are chaplains that do preach. They have a role at the chapel on post, but I think again, uh, like I think military families are like all families, but then also have some unique challenges as well, with families being separated while people are off serving. And so I think they do counseling in that way as well. Chaplains do. Uh, Chaplains you could be called a pastor or a preacher or a minister, I think, and serve in some similar roles. But I think chaplains sometimes get put into a specific situation where they serve. Sometimes it's just a title. Sometimes I think it's the role that they're particularly serving.
But for you, the distinction is getting to focus exclusively on serving, giving back, and again,
Yeah,
for lack of a
like I
better
would
way,
call
saying it,
myself.
supporting.
I don't know that I would call myself a pastor. I do pastor, like I shepherd, I guide, I work with people, and some people call me pastor. Like there's one old, like that little old grandma, she'll call me pastor. I'm like, very few people call me pastor. All the kids call me profe, like teacher. Um, um, I live my life as a missionary, meaning I go across the border to serve in another culture, and I live off of support of other people. Um, and maybe a
Is
minister
that
is a
what
better
people get
word.
wrong about ministry work? Is that, people think it's mostly about faith and you look at it as faith being a support structure, but really it's about serving?
I mean, ministry definitely, you go and you serve and you go and minister to people. Um, uh,
I'm
um,
just trying to wrap my head around the distinction about how you define it and how maybe others might get it wrong.
that's a good question. I definitely, my work for me is definitely a ministry. I'm
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm going to serve these kids. My life, and I think that's the life of, that's the role of nonprofits, is to serve a community. That particular community has this need. That's what they go. That's their mission, is to go and serve. Mine is I am a nonprofit ministry, and so my role is to go and serve this community. Right now, I'm doing it in using jujitsu as a way to serve these kids. At a particular time, it was literacy. Maybe it will be again someday. But I don't know if I'm answering your question.
You've gone into a handful of these different places. It was just curiosity, right? It's just like, sometimes definitions are difficult for
Hmm.
people to, get past. And so just knowing how you see it might change someone's view if they like the way you talk about things and think about things. And they might be like, oh, Steve's approach is quite a bit less preachy. I could get behind this, so just
Yeah, for
knowing how
sure.
they
I
think
think
about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, and I've talked to my kids about this too, like a lot of people have issues with church or faith in general. Um,
Yeah. There's good reasons
sometimes
for
it's
that.
sometimes it's misguided, sometimes it's not, right? And but I and so sometimes the way I word it is I'm a follower of Jesus. And
Yeah.
so Jesus, when he was here, and you read through the stories in the Bible of Jesus's interactions with people, he loved them, he cured them, he took time for them, and he served them. And so, as a follower of his, I want to do what he did. And so, when I'm with the kids, or even with their families, so like I said, I'm fully involved in these kids' lives. I've gone to, I've been next to their moms when they died of cancer. I've prayed with them when they're struggling. I've been to funerals of suicides of parents of my kids. So I'm trying, and if you read scripture, if you read the Bible, that's where Jesus was too. He was there when a brother died. He was there when people were hungry. Uh, he was there serving them and loving on them. And I think that's when people, if they can look at the way he lived, it's a little easier to go, oh, that makes more sense than whatever such and such person did or what I saw on the news. It would be like if I would be upset if someone looked at me and said, well, that jujitsu guy did that across the world. I can't be a jujitsu guy. I can't believe you're a jujitsu guy because of what so and so did. I don't think that would be fair. But so I try to live my life as this is what Jesus did. I follow Jesus. I know there are people that have done horrible things in the name of church or Bible or Jesus. I'm reading scripture, looking at how he lived and trying to live that way. And if you look at my life, I hope I hope if some people looked at my life, they go, "Oh, that makes more sense," or "That makes sense." Maybe not more sense, but that makes sense. He's living the way he says he follows Jesus, and he's trying to live like Jesus. That's what I would hope people saw of my work.
I mean, everything we've talked about so far really points to, minus a little bit of partying here and there, which I think is great life
Yeah.
experience. Everything points to
Yes. Yeah.
living a life of service.
Yes. Some of my
How
best
much
friends and
of this?
some of my supporters from those days are from those days. So they have seen the change over the years. So yeah.
And that's great because not everybody lives that life their whole life. And so once they turn it around or make a change, if they do, like you know, those lifelong relationships can turn into valuable support structures.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just curious how much of the religious stuff makes it into the Rio Bravo side of things. Like, is there a religious or faith based component to it, or that's just
For
if
sure.
it's relevant for the particular individual or individuals?
It is something. It's not like the kids have no obligation. They can come and solely train. One of the things that one of the kids do as part of, like in jujitsu, as you rank up, you get your stripes. So our kids will also memorize scripture. One of the scriptures they memorize is that one that I said earlier about Matthew 6:33. Um, Seek first the kingdom. And so one of the things, there's a psalm, it's called 118. It's Psalm 118:24. It says, I see if I can do it in English. Uh, this is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. And so I tell the kids, I go, we're here and we're training. Um, if we're not having a good time, like this is supposed to be a good day. It's supposed to be a joyful day. We're supposed to celebrate. If you're here and your profe, your coach is grumpy and upset and cranky because he didn't sleep enough, I go, you can call me out. We're supposed to be having a good day today. This is the day that God's given us. We should enjoy it and have a good day. And so
Yeah.
it
You're
does.
teaching them gratitude, which is a great
Yeah.
lesson for kids to learn.
Yeah, we go through we go through respect, we go through gratitude, we go through discipline. We do have lessons after usually one class a week. We'll do a 5 minute as they're lined up, or we'll sit on the mats and we'll talk about those things. And so, but kids do memorize scripture as a part of the program. And so, um, so yeah, it definitely plays a role.
I, like I said earlier, I'm not religious, and but if people are operating with good intention and in a healthy way, like I don't have any issue with it. And especially, I think it's great that you're teaching kids gratitude. Like, I don't bring gratitude in that way um, to class, but I always, after I'm teaching at the end of class, right before, because I bow and shake everyone's hand as well. Like, to me,
Yeah.
that's part of it, the respect. I always thank them for their time and attention, because
Yeah.
to me, I'm very grateful that they give that to me, because like
Mm-hmm.
that's the finite things that we have. We have finite
Mm-hmm.
amounts of time. We have finite amounts of attention. And I'm always very appreciative of everyone who's willing to give it to me. So if I have 50 people in my class, I say, thank you for your time and attention. Then I go and shake every one of their hands and bow, and I appreciate it. So showing
Yeah.
gratitude, I think, is a wonderful lesson to give people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. We need it. And I tell that we've talked about that maybe last week. We talked about, being grateful. I go, not all of us have the biggest, like I said, we work in an opera. I go, you might not live in the biggest house in an opera, but if you have a house, you need to be grateful. And your parents, we talked about being grateful. I think we were talking about blessing. I was like, your parents work every day. Why do they go to work? I go so you can be here with me. They're out working so you can be here. You go home and you have a bed or you have a roof over your head. You need to be grateful for that because they've blessed you by the work that they've done. And so yeah, I think it's sometimes we get caught up in our own stuff so much that we don't look around and realize what we should be grateful for.
Yeah. You travel and across, like across the border. You've been to Fiji. Like, you've traveled and visited other places. Like, how has that changed your view of the world? I think
Um,
it's very difficult to have a consistent view of the world when you've seen that many things, and seen that difficulty of life.
yeah, so most of my time has been, obviously most of my time is in Mexico, but my travels other than Fiji have all been South America, Guatemala, so Central America and South America. Um, and all of those have just come through a contact. My first, like I said, in Ecuador, my friend Marcelo, I met him. He's Chilean. So I've been to Chile to visit him when he went back home. He was in Ecuador in February and he has cancer. He's on his third round of cancer. And so I was like, I need to make it to Ecuador to go see him. I don't know if it's going to go away for good or what, but he got permission from his doctor to leave Chile, and he was in Ecuador for a retreat. And so I went down there. While I was there, I met another guy from Colombia, and um, he has a church in Colombia, and a team from Brazil had recently been there. And while they were there, they put on a little jiu-jitsu clinic, and small group of kids started training jiu-jitsu at their church. He knows nothing about it. There's a 21-year-old, 22-year-old who kind of took the lead. He was a white belt. He watches YouTube videos, and this pastor was like, "Hey, He was Marcelo Giovanni told me that you train jiu-jitsu. Would you consider coming down?" And so I took some of my kids down. We were down there last month for a week and did some training with the kids and coaching. Um, and so that's how, I mean, all of these things. I meet this person, they invite me to go here, they invite me to go here, they invite me to go here. So I've been to all these different countries. My perspective on the world based on my travels, I think that what I've seen is there are some similarities all around the world. We all struggle with the same things. We all have things that we need that we don't have access to, at least in the parts of the. Here's the thing: when I travel, so like when I did house building, I went to Cancun for 10 days to build houses in the outskirts of Cancun. Most people in Cancun, they stay at the hotels and they're on the beach. I spent 10 days in Cancun. I never saw the beach. They go, the taxi's out front, time to go to the airport. I was like, I should probably go see the beach. I walked out into the sand and walked back out and got in the taxi and went home. That's my experience around the world. I never, very rarely ever spend time in the resort areas. When I was in Fiji, I wasn't in the resorts. I was in the mountains with the families. And so,
That's why I asked, though, because these places that you talk about, you're seeing in many ways I hesitate to phrase it like this, but you're seeing some of the horrors of the world. And that must give you a perspective or a view on the world that's slightly different than somebody who goes to Cancun, goes to Fiji, goes to, So I was just sort of curious, like how that changed your view of life.
I mean, I think it probably gives me more hope in the world. Obviously, like you said, there are some situations that are difficult for that I've seen. However, the people are amazing and loving and accepting, and you walk into almost any home in the world. You walk into a home, they're probably better at hospitality than we are, at least in the States. You walk in and they're ready to serve you whatever it is, whether it's a tea or coffee and some cookies. They want to sit down. They want to spend time with you, hear your story, talk to you. And you can be, I was in Fiji and this lady had 2 cinder blocks, firewood, and was heating water for coffee. And then half of the wall was gone. Like her home was open to nature. But she was there ready for us to have coffee with her despite her situation. And I think so that's probably the most important thing. These people are people. They have value regardless of their economic status. And so everybody has hopes. They have dreams for their kids, their families, just like we do. And so if you can humble yourself enough to sit down and see the person and not the situation that they're in, I think you'll have an amazing experience and an amazing conversation and a friend. And you can connect on that same level and say, I'm just as flawed as anybody else in this world. I'm not better than this person just because I have a finished house. They still have a husband, a wife, a mom and dad, and kids, and they want to provide a meal for them. And man, we can connect on those things. And that's what I think. That's probably what we need to do more of. All the Cancun, all the beach, all the drinking, all that. That's all.
That was really beautifully articulated, Steve. Like just talking about, how to connect with people. The next thing I was going to ask was if you have any piece of advice if you had any piece of advice that you wish everyone knew, but man, you just delivered something really beautiful about how, we're all human.
Yeah, it's true. I'm fully aware. Like I've shared a little bit of my story. There's a lot more, but I'm if I'm aware of my flaws, then I can sit down with anybody, and I think that's important.
What are you excited for in the future?
So I've got I have 2 kids. I have my son, and my son's graduating from college next year, very soon, going to grad school. My daughter has 2 kids, just had her second grandson, 2 weeks old, grandchild, second. He's 2 weeks old now. My granddaughter yeah, thank you. Love them both. I love being able to see them and play with them. And so, looking forward to watching them grow up. I do love Rio Bravo. I love what I do. I feel like at 54, I finally found a place that I don't look forward to retiring from. I know I won't be able to train forever, but I look forward to seeing my current students grow up and hopefully be part of our team and not just receive coaching, but turn around and be coaches. That's one of the things I love about jiu-jitsu is, man, if I can learn an Americana, I can turn around. I might not be able to teach it perfectly, but I can turn around and teach someone that knows nothing, something. And so I'm hoping that what I'm investing into these kids and teens as they grow up, that they'll be able to turn around and invest that into other kids moving forward down the future. And so I'm not looking forward to retirement. Honestly, I would be bored to death if I was sitting in a chair. And so just hope to continue to serve and hopefully continue to be healthy and be able to train and enjoy what I'm doing. So
That sounds really good. I feel like it doesn't sound like retirement's going to be something on your list anyway. It sounds like you could keep giving quite a bit of yourself to this, even if you're not, showing the moves yourself,
yeah, I hope so.
So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, Stephen Jolly on Instagram, Rio Bravo Project on Instagram, RioBravoProject.com. And if somebody wants to donate, and I'll put all of this stuff in the show notes. If somebody wants to donate, RioProject.com/give, right?
RioBravoProject.com/give. Correct. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to have people know?
I mean, yeah, they can honestly, yeah, if they want to follow us, that would be great. On that, Facebook is the same name. And we could always use more support. We're always trying to improve our food program and expand. At some point, we'll be expanding to a third location, I hope soon. And we'll need more funding to help cover the new batch of kids that we work with. And yeah, connect with me online. I'd love to hear from you. We don't have a lot of volunteers come down, but if it's something you're interested in, for sure we can talk about that. And it's not super easy always to get here, but we're open to having people participate with us and at least share our content and get the word out about what we're doing.
Awesome. I'm really glad we got a chance to talk today, Steve. It was really good getting to know you, and I wish you all the luck in the world with the Rio Bravo Project.
Thanks, Eric. Awesome talking to you too. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about ministry or the Rio Bravo Project, connect with Steve directly on Instagram. If you have the financial ability to donate to the Rio Bravo Project, head over to www.riobravoproject.com/give, where you can either do a one-time donation or a regular monthly contribution. Or if you have the ability to donate kids' gis or other BJJ gear, you can also reach out to Steve directly on Instagram. If you find yourself near El Paso, Texas, USA, or Anapra, Mexico, you can message Steve for a role. His contact information and websites are in the show notes. And as always, thank you for your time and attention.